Let me call into question the idea that our problem fundamentally is a collapse of any authority.
Yeah.
It seems to me that elites continue to exercise authority, but they exercise it in a completely different way. They exercise it to, for example, stigmatize people who have traditional moral beliefs of the sort that were sustained by authoritative structures in past generations. Lady Gaga has authority. Teachers have authority. University administrators have authority. Believe me, they do. And they exercise it, sometimes with a brutality that would shock the old authoritarians.
These are usurpations.
That's right. But young people do tend to fall in line behind that authority. It's amazing how conformist young people, believe me, as a teacher, I teach at Princeton, the so-called free-thinking, non-conformist youth, they don't exist. They conform. The question is whose authority they will conform to. But Jean, I want to go in a different direction. But before even doing that, I want to say that for my generation of rebels against the authority of the academic establishment, those of us who have called into question the prevailing orthodoxies, people like David and John Woody and myself, you and Mary Ann Glendon and our dear late beloved friend Elizabeth Fox Genovese have been such inspirations. And you've really taught us by precept and example how to stand up against the narcissism and the hypocrisy that we have witnessed. If you hadn't stood when it was much more difficult than it was for us, we wouldn't have had the courage. We wouldn't have the ability to do it. So thank you, Jean. Here's an opportunity for us really to say thank you. Raised the question of eugenics, and it's of course a subject that has been very important to you, as it has been to me. And we know that eugenics, although it was given a bad name by the Nazis, was not invented by the Nazis. It was invented by the enlightened, progressive, we would today say liberal, pre-Nazi Weimar Germans, people like Mending and Hoka, who originally coined the phrase as a title of a book, Lebenswert Leben, Life Unworthy of Life. The Nazis picked it up and ran with it, but it was respectable, anti-Nazi, people who considered the Nazis to be thugs. And then, as Christine Rosen has taught us, it was embraced by the mainline churches,
in the U.S.
and so forth. Well, the Nazis did give it a bad name, but my question, Jean, is whether it has come back under a different guise, with a different rhetoric. But I wonder about this when you and I know what the rate of the killing of Down syndrome babies is in the womb. You don't see many Down syndrome children anymore. Why is that going on? We see it in the attitude toward handicapped people. Jean and I are both very concerned about the treatment of the handicapped and where that is going. The movement to assisted suicide and euthanasia. Look at the European nations now embracing it. But now it's not with an authoritarian, coercive rhetoric. It's with the rhetoric of autonomy and choice, and dignity and so forth. So it's back. And so here is, I want to relate the problem to the question David Lapp raised. It seems to me, and you can tell me if you disagree, it seems to me that basically since about the early 1970s, 72, 73, the American left, David continues to call himself a liberal, God bless him. I gave it up, David, in the mid-80s. But the left has basically been captured.
I like dying causes.
That's right.
Lost causes
are the only ones worth.
Why don't you be with the Scottish clans or something?
But it's basically now, I mean, the left has basically embraced liberationism full bore. This is not your grandfather's left. This is not Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Hubert Humphrey in the Great Civil Rights Movement, right? It's embraced liberationism in its full bore. So what do we find on the other side among conservatives? This is where David's point, I think, becomes very important. We see a mix of things, but one powerful force within it is libertarianism. Okay? Now, with the left and the Democratic Party basically now in the grip of liberationism, a guy like David is an anomaly. Okay? And the Republican Party, not fully having been captured by the libertarian sentiment, but there are a lot of I Am Rand posters being waved around
more and more
out there, more and more. And it's just the social conservatives and the so-called religious nuts who are resisting that force. if that goes, and we have a liberationist left controlling the Democratic Party and a libertarian right controlling the Republican Party, what will be the fate of the vulnerable? What will be the fate of the handicapped? What will be the fate of the frail elderly when it's all now choice, liberation, that kind of Ayn Randian, radical, selfish doctrine of freedom embraced in different ways by the two sides? I mean, it seems to me that is a dire circumstance.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think that you and I know what the fate would be. I mean, it would be a situation in which you could willy-nilly, care for a child with mental retardation if you chose to, but don't expect anything but a certain contempt and lack of interest, but even contempt, the part of other people. Because, why would you knowingly, out of free choice, take that on? I mean, there's a drive to, there's all this prattling about difference and diversity, but on that fundamental level, an absolute inability to tolerate it when it comes to the fact that the world is filled with human beings who are, in various ways don't look like us, don't talk like us, some can't talk at all, and it's as if we want to wish those people out of sight, because they cannot conform to this freestanding, autonomous, rational actor. They can never be that creature. They can never be that character. And I think it's invited a real urge to find a way to get rid of the problem. So you have, we don't want to use nasty words like eugenics anymore, so we talk about positive genetic enhancement, to try to, where people have certain flaws and want to look more mainstream, if you will, can get things fixed up. But finally, there are some people, like Down syndrome children, that you can't fix up. They're Down syndrome children. And as I'm sure you know, that I think, what is it, Robbie, 87% or thereabouts are aborted now based on pre-birth, amniocentesis and so forth. And you can be sure that the Down syndrome people among us recognize that people are saying the world would be better off if you weren't in it. Well, and we don't want any more people like you in it.
Leon Cass reports in his great lecture at the Holocaust Museum called A More Perfect Human, the experience of so many Down syndrome mothers in particular, parents, but mothers in particular, who encounter people who say to them, without a second thought, when they see that they have a Down syndrome or other handicapped child, oh, you didn't have an amnio.
Yeah, I know. The automatic assumption is you get rid of this flawed creature.